Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm so glad you're here because we're about to talk about one of the most powerful ideas you can apply to your learning, the 80-20 principle, also known as the Pareto Principle. This is the idea that in many situations, 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. And if you can figure out what that key 20% is in your studies, you can save time, study less, and actually remember more for the long term. Sounds good, right? Let's break it down in a simple, practical way so you can start using it today. First, let's talk about what the 80-20 rule really means in the context of learning. Imagine you're studying for an exam. You have a big textbook, lecture notes, online resources, and maybe even some practice tests. The truth is, not all of this material is equally important. In fact, a small portion of it contains the concepts, skills, or facts that will make the biggest difference to your understanding and your grades. That small portion is your 20%. The other 80% of your study material might still be helpful, but it won't give you nearly as much return on the time you invest. So, how do you find your 20%? Here's the key. Identify the topics, questions, or skills that come up again and again. This could be from past exam papers, quizzes, or the parts your teacher emphasizes most in class. Often the things that feel too basic or too obvious are actually the building blocks that every other concept depends on. If you master those core elements, you'll find that the rest of the material becomes much easier to understand, and you won't waste time memorizing details you'll probably never use. Let's make it more concrete. Say you're learning a new language. You could spend hours trying to memorize every single word in the dictionary, but here's the thing. The most common 500 words in that language might cover about 80% of everyday conversations. So instead of trying to learn everything, you focus on those high-frequency words first. That's the 80-20 principle in action, and it works for math formulas, historical events, scientific concepts, coding, or pretty much anything else. Now, once you've found your 20%, the next step is to focus your study time there, but not in a lazy way. This isn't about cramming or cutting corners. It's about going deep into the most valuable material and practicing it until it's second nature. For example, if you're preparing for a math exam, don't just read the formulas, actually solve problems that use them over and over until you can do them without looking at the book. If you're learning history, don't just memorize dates, understand the cause and effect relationship so the story sticks in your head. That's how you make the knowledge last. A big part of learning less but remembering more is using active recall. This means testing yourself instead of passively reading or highlighting. Close the book, write down what you remember, then check what you missed. This method forces your brain to work harder, and that effort strengthens your memory. Pair that with spaced repetition, reviewing the material over increasing time intervals, and you've got a recipe for learning that's both efficient and long-lasting. Here's another tip. Cut down on distractions during your 20% study time. If you can give just 30 to 40 minutes of focused, distraction-free attention to your most important topics, you'll often get more done than in 2 or 3 hours of half-distracted studying. That's because focus amplifies the 80-20 effect. You're not just working on the right things, you're working on them with full mental energy. It's also worth remembering that the 80-20 rule is flexible. Sometimes your ratio might look more like 70-30 or even 90-10. The actual numbers aren't as important as the mindset. Always ask yourself, what's the small part of my work that's giving me the biggest results? The answer to that question is your shortcut to faster, deeper learning. So, to wrap it up, the 80-20 principle in learning is about focusing on the most valuable 20% of your material, mastering it through active recall and spaced repetition, and cutting out time-wasting distractions. When you apply this, you'll find you can study less, remember more, and free up your time for other things you love. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend who might need this. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep learning smart, and take care.